Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we are looking at something honestly mind-bending. We so often think of human evolution as, just a chapter in a history book, something that happened millions of years ago, slowly shaping us into who we are today. But what if I told you that human evolution is still happening, right now, in extreme and incredibly measurable ways? Today, we are exploring isolated tribes scattered across the globe whose bodies and minds literally break the established laws of human biology, linguistics, and medicine. Let's jump right in.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with evolution in real time, then move into defying modern medicine, isolated from human history, surviving the apocalypse, and finally, the price of modernity.
All right, let's dive right into this. Section 1, Evolution in Real Time, the body's answer to the wild. So we're going to look at 3 distinct tribes that showcase some dramatic, undeniable genetic adaptations perfectly tailored to their hostile environments. And we're starting with a massive number, 59%. That represents the Bajau people of Southeast Asia. They've lived on stilt houses directly over the ocean for over 1,000 years. These fishermen can free dive up to 60 meters deep for up to 13 minutes on a single breath. To put that into perspective, heavily trained professional freedivers really struggle to hit the 4-minute mark. And the reason the Bajau can pull this off is actually hidden inside their bodies. When they dive, their spleens contract to release extra oxygen-rich red blood cells into their bloodstream. They possess a spleen that is, on average, 59% larger than neighboring land-dwelling tribes. It's almost twice as large. And here is the truly crazy part. This profoundly larger spleen isn't just a physical change from years of practice. No. It's a genetic rewrite from birth. Researchers identified a specific gene, the PD10A variant, that is entirely unique to the Bajau. Natural selection over centuries of underwater life has literally rewritten part of their genetic code. But the adaptations don't even stop there. Bajau children's pupils actually constrict underwater so they can see with crystal clarity, whereas anyone else would just see a blurry mess. Plus, their heart rates slow down when submerged to levels that would trigger an immediate medical emergency in you or me. Older divers will even deliberately pierce their eardrums to relieve deep water pressure for life. Their bodies are quite literally built for the ocean. Now, moving from the ocean to the incredibly dense, towering tropical rainforests of Central Africa, we find the pygmy populations, like the Baka and the Mbuti. For a long time, scientists used to think their short stature, which averages around 150 centimeters, was just due to malnutrition. But genetic studies have revealed something far more fascinating. While pygmy babies are born the exact same size as any other human baby, this extraordinary shift happens during adolescence. Instead of a typical growth spurt, their populations experience a deliberate drop in a growth factor called IGF-1. Basically, their bodies receive a genetic signal to just stop growing. Why? Well, because being small is the absolute ultimate advantage in a dense jungle where resources are limited. In fact, they share this exact ecosystem with pygmy elephants and pygmy hippos, all of them uniquely downsized by nature to perfectly navigate and survive the forest. Our third incredible adaptation takes us to the scorching Namibian desert. This is a place so arid that the Himba tribe has survived there since the 16th century without ever washing with water. Not once in their entire lives. Instead, they rely on this brilliant biotechnological armor. First, they take aromatic smoke baths to purify their skin. Then they apply something called ogize. It's a deep red mixture of animal fat, aromatic resin, and iron-rich ochre clay. Now, for years, Western researchers thought this was just some primitive aesthetic custom. But laboratory analysis proved that this waterless routine is actually a highly sophisticated, centuries-old solution. It naturally repels the region's abundant insects, prevents deadly skin infections, and acts as a massive physical block against the desert's devastating UV rays. It's a skincare routine that honestly puts modern dermatological science to shame. It is survival and beauty perfectly rolled into one. Moving right along to Section 2, Defying Modern Medicine, the Health Paradox. When we look at internal health, isolated tribes completely subvert pretty much everything modern medicine assumes about diet and exercise. Back in 2017, the highly prestigious medical journal, The Lancet, published a study on the Tsimane tribe in the isolated Bolivian Amazon. They performed scans on hundreds of adults and found that an 80-year-old Tsimane man has the cardiovascular health and the arteries of a 50-year-old Westerner. Think about that. 85% of them showed virtually no signs of atherosclerosis, which is the leading cause of death in the West. But here is the paradox, and this is exactly why this matters for your own health assumptions. Over 70% of the Tsimane diet is carbohydrates. We're talking rice, corn, cassava, plantains, the exact foods we are constantly told to avoid. So how on earth do they have the healthiest hearts on the planet? Because every single calorie they consume is completely burned off by their lifestyle. The average Tsimane adult walks the equivalent of 16 kilometers a day just for basic survival. Now, what's really interesting about this next piece of data is how it flips another major assumption on its head. For decades, scientists assumed hunter-gatherers must burn massively more calories than us. I mean, it makes sense, right? But when researchers precisely measured the daily caloric burn of the Hadza tribe in Tanzania, a group who have lived uninterrupted for 50,000 years, the data revealed something impossible. They burn the exact same amount of calories as a sedentary Western office worker. No way, right? How is that even possible? Well, researchers discovered that when the human body moves constantly, it doesn't just endlessly expend energy, it reorganizes it. It's essentially an internal energy budget. The Hadza body shuts down the internal chronic inflammation that destroys Western bodies from the inside out, perfectly balancing their energy to keep them in absolute peak physical condition.
So synthesizing all this incredible health data reveals three really unique paths to longevity. The Tsimane boast the healthiest hearts in the world through massive daily walking. The Hadza, who eat whatever the wild provides daily without ever hoarding a thing, boast the most diverse gut microbiota ever recorded in humans, which completely protects them from modern allergies and diseases. And then we have the Hunza of northern Pakistan. Way up in the Karakoram Mountains, the Hunza regularly live to extreme old ages, with 60-year-old women looking like they are 30 and 80-year-old men farming steep mountainsides. Their secret? It's a combination of relentless mountain walking, a diet rich in antioxidant-packed apricots, seasonal intermittent fasting when the winter reserves run low, and a total absolute lack of chronic stress.
Which brings us to Section 3, Isolated from Human History, Time Capsules of Culture. Let's shift our focus from the physical body to the mind, to DNA and linguistics. We really have to grasp the sheer scale of isolation for these groups. 12,000 years ago, a group called the Kalash became completely genetically isolated in the Hindu Kush mountains of Pakistan. Today, they are a frozen genetic snapshot of a world that literally no longer exists, featuring striking blonde hair and blue eyes right in the middle of South Asia, and practicing ancient polyistic rituals that actually resemble ancient Greece. But if you go way, way back on the timeline, 150,000 years ago, the San lineage diverged. Living in the deserts of southern Africa, the San are literally the genetic grandparents of all modern humanity. The entire modern human population descends from a branch that originally diverged from them.
And the San possess something truly remarkable. They speak one of the oldest and most complex languages ever documented. The San language is built on an incredibly intricate system of dental, palatal, and lateral clicks. Each individual click carries a completely different meaning, creating a phonetic complexity that linguists say has absolutely no parallel anywhere in the world. And when you combine this impossibly complex language with their masterful tracking skills, they can track a wounded animal across dry sand for 3 days by reading footprints that are entirely invisible to anyone else. You have a culture perfectly adapted to survive the Kalahari for 150 millennia.
Okay, now let's look at an isolation so profound, it actually alters the fundamental concept of sleep itself. Deep in the Brazilian Amazon, a tribe called the Piraha utterly reject the standard 8-hour deep sleep that you and I so desperately crave and protect. Instead, they take short 15 to 30-minute naps throughout the day and the night. Why? Because they firmly believe that long, deep sleep will literally kill the person they used to be. When someone wakes up from a long sleep, they believe a brand new person has opened their eyes. Because of this, they frequently change their names throughout their lives whenever they feel their identity has shifted. To them, identity flows. It is never a fixed thing.
But the Purana's mind-bending constraints don't stop at sleep. They extend right into their language, which has basically shattered established linguistic theories. Consider these anomalies. They have no numbers, like no 1, 2, or 10, no way of counting whatsoever. They have no distinct words for colors. And most shockingly, their grammar has no past or future tense. If an event isn't happening right now, in this exact moment or wasn't experienced directly by someone currently alive, it simply does not exist in their culture. Furthermore, they can whistle this entire language across the jungle in the pitch-black night to communicate perfectly. Their language is so fundamentally different that linguist Daniel Everett argues it completely contradicts Noam Chomsky's famous universal grammar theory.
All right, Section 4. Surviving the apocalypse, the ultimate test. So can ancient environmental literacy actually outsmart modern technology? The Laban, the spirit that devours people. This chilling piece of oral tradition comes from the Moken, a tribe of sea gypsies living on handcrafted wooden boats in the Andaman Sea. For centuries, the Moken spend most of the year living entirely out on the ocean. And to them, the Laban isn't just some mythological concept. It is a highly literal survival manual passed down from generation to generation for thousands of years, describing exactly how the sea behaves right before disaster strikes.
And that very oral tradition saved them on December 26, 2004. That morning, a massive 9.1 magnitude earthquake triggered a devastating tsunami that tragically killed over 228,000 people across multiple countries. Modern science, our advanced satellites, our early warning systems, they completely failed to warn the masses. But the Moken survived, virtually all of them. Why? Because that morning the Moken elders read the natural signs. The water receding unusually, dolphins fleeing out to deep water, elephants moving to higher ground. The Moken immediately recognized the arrival of the Laban and evacuated their entire population to the hills hours before the waves ever hit. Their ancient language of the sea saved literally every life in their community.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the price of modernity, a rapid reversal.
As global governments continue to push these tribes into modern, permanent settlements, scientists are documenting a pretty sobering reality. Evolution rapidly reverses course when it is no longer necessary. For Bajal families who are pressured to abandon their houseboats and move to land, their enlarged spleens are actually shrinking, and their incredible underwater vision is deteriorating in just 2 generations. When the Tsimine migrate to modern cities, their famously healthy arteries begin to rapidly clog and deteriorate in less than a single generation. And as Moken youth are integrated into modern schools, the elders are passing away without transferring their vital, life-saving knowledge of the sea.
Which leaves us with this final, truly profound question to consider today. As we trade these ancient, hard-won human adaptations for the basic comforts of the modern world, are we biologically and culturally devolving? Or has modernity simply disconnected us from the natural world forever? It's a fascinating paradox to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning,